a podcast where two writer friends, nearly 30 years apart, explore everything we give an F about. I'm Gabby Moskowitz. We'll share stories from our lives and our distinct generational perspectives, and we'll look to the experts for insights and ideas. I wouldn't say it's been a challenge that has had plagued me or prevented me from accomplishing what I wanted to, but there have been many times I've had to really actively make a point of refocusing myself and finds I've time, see, like right now maybe, times I've found myself getting more easily distracted. I know we talk about this all the time, but I think pregnancy and early parenthood, especially motherhood with a lot of the like chemicals that are shifting and changing and physical changes have really impacted that. I have since having kids, I frequently find myself unable to locate a word that I'm trying to say. What about you? You have Oh. Hmm. I was gonna say. Mm. That's only we're not even on all the stuff. Mm. Oh. No, I listened to an episode, I believe on Armchair Expert, where he spoke, and I if I'm thinking of the same guy, it's a he, but you know, who knows? But yeah, I think so. Mm. Mhm. Yes, I can't tell you how many times, how many meals I've missed, and how many times I have finished like an intense scene or like something where I've been like really in a work spiral and realized that I was in like physical pain from needing to urinate. I mean, it's like, and I've actually, whenever, I'm a chef, and whenever I'm working on, if whether it was back when I used to cater, or if I'm just working on like a big holiday meal with a lot of components, I do the same thing. I my physical needs sort of go by the wayside, and I realize hours have passed, and I'm kind of, it's like being in kind of a trance almost. You know what I mean? Do you have that experience? Mhm. Mm. Mm. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, my personal experience, and I'll say, I, I too live with a husband with focus issues, and he's very open about that. I also have a child with some neurodivergent stuff, and as I have been getting to know stuff about both of them and what they're experiencing, I'm definitely realizing a lot of my own a lot of ways that I am on a variety of different spectrums, and a lot of that comes up for me in ways that I focus. And I am a creative person, and that's been my realm of profession for a long time, different creative outlets. And um, what I have found is that transitioning out of that focus, I guess I call it a focus spiral. It feels like a black hole sometimes. Transitioning out of it can be very difficult. But also, when I need to stay sort of semi clued in, I sometimes use distractions as a way. This is when I'm doing it really well. I don't always do it really well. Sometimes I just get easily distracted. But I'll use like a Twitter break, or checking TikTok or Instagram, or sometimes just reading a chapter from another book as a break or a refresher for my brain, because being intensely focused can be kind of emotionally overwhelming in my experience. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm, mm. Evan calls what you were just describing. Evan calls that like the when you're resistant to doing something because of just how daunting it seems. He calls that the wall of awful. When there's like a task that he just doesn't he's having a hard time getting himself to engage with, some complicated tax thing, or paperwork he has to fill out. It's like he calls that the wall of awful. And so we talk about having to yeah, He talks about having to scale the wall of awful, break through the wall of awful to be able to get through. And I really relate to that. There are so many times when I just keep saying, I'll do that. I'll do that tomorrow. I just can't deal. And then suddenly enough tomorrows build up and too much time has passed. Yeah. Right. Or something like that. Yeah. Hmm. How do you get less emails? How do you get fewer emails? Oh, yeah. I usually wait till I get angry to unsubscribe. I wait until someone's pissed me off and then I go, I am unsubscribing. Maybe I should just do it more proactively. Mm. Hmm. I can't tell you Well, I can't tell you how many emails I've been or how many meetings I've been to that should have been emails that could have been a list of new changes or new information that just everybody needs to know. You don't need to meet in person for that. And so there, especially, and I think it's going to be really interesting. This is an aside, not to be unfocused in our focus episode, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Zoom and work from home culture will shift the traditional workplace when, it sounds like people are already starting to go back. But one thing I found, and like you, I don't work in a traditional workplace. I work mostly from home, but all of my dealings with companies and any sort of traditional workplace environment as a freelancer have been so much more streamlined since COVID began. And I really think it's because people are not willing to have their time wasted when their kids are at home, when they're able to actually control their own schedules more working from home. And whenever I have worked in a in-person workplace environment, it's been a real problem how much time gets wasted in group meetings. And I'm just hopeful that that starts to shift after we learn what we've learned. Mm, agreed. Mm, Mm. Yeah. I mean, those all sound so great. I do periodically, one thing I like to do is periodically take social media off of my phone. I find that I use it when I feel overwhelmed emotionally and don't want or intellectually or and just don't want to engage um with those feelings and it's so easy. Anyone That's when I find that when I find that I'm going back over and over and over again because I'm avoiding dealing with some feeling or doing some task and it starts to become a problem that's affecting me, that's when I usually take it off of my phone. And I'll go through, it's like I'll do like a little cleanse. I'll kind of go through and not have it for a while. And then, depending on what project I'm working on, I might need it back on my phone. And then I'll just sort of go back and forth on it. Um, it's easier for me to avoid it on my phone than it is on a computer, but it's also not, in my experience, it's not as pleasing on my computer because doesn't move as quickly. I have to scroll and close browsers and stuff. um and also, yeah, well, I periodically fall out of love with social media and, occasionally wonder why I'm looking at the vacation photos of like the, someone I took a biology class with in high school and wasn't really friends with. It's like, why do I that's the kind of thing that I think is interesting about the way that it's like we're so bombarded by the relevant content, right? We're so bombarded by news and advertising, not that advertising is relevant, but things that are geared toward us. But because of the internet and because of social media, our natural curiosity, at least in my experience, for me personally, it's like my natural curiosity uh is so has so much to feed on, let's put it that way, that I end up filling up my brain with stuff that doesn't really serve me. And all of a sudden, why do I need to know that somebody I was never friends with before, and really only have been for some reason have been Facebook friends with for the last decade and a half or whatever, because we were just all adding each other on Facebook. Why is it important for me to know um, where that person stayed when they went to, you know, the south of France? I don't know. I mean, that was kind of a random example, but it's like those are things. But now I can know that. I can also know every now and then, if I'm watching a TV show, I will suddenly, let's say Joe Pesci comes on the screen, and I'll realize I haven't thought about Joe Pesci in a long time, and suddenly I need to know everything Joe Pesci has done in the last 20 years. And so then I'm watching uh, whatever Succession or whatever, and not that Joe Pesci's on Succession, how amazing would that be? But but I'm also looking at Joe Pesci's IMDb screen, and all the while, my brain is taking in all this information. No wonder we're exhausted at night. Mm, 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 mhm, mm. I have a tip for that one. If you're if you're a Google user, there is a fantastic app called Google Keep, and it is the in my experience, just a fantastic self note. I like it better than the Notes app on my iPhone, and both because you can they I don't know. It just works really well for me. I like that you can make check boxes, so you can check off tasks. Evan and I share them. So if you have other Gmail users, you can have collaborators. So we have running grocery lists that are in the Keep app. So if you're a Google user, highly recommend Keep. It's great. Yes. Yeah. Mm, yeah. I have something. I was just going to say about mindfulness. I sort of stumbled upon a technique that works really well for me when my older daughter was born, and for the first time in my life when I was home with her, uh, I what I found was I would start speaking out. I mean, talking to her all day long, and, she wasn't a great conversation partner for the first 10 or so months of her life. And she didn't really start talking much until she was close to a year. But I would talk to her and I would essentially narrate what I've always talked to myself. But when I had a conversation partner, you know, infant with me all the time, I started really um, articulating what it was that I was thinking and what it was that I needed to do. And the more I spoke my thought processes out loud, the more I was able to stick with them. And so ever since then, I have started doing that. And so now, whether I'm talking to an actual baby, so her younger sister, when I'm home with her, or whether I'm just by myself, I will say, especially when it comes to sequencing, I get kind of overwhelmed by sequencing when I've got a big task with a lot of small steps. And so I say them out loud and I have a much easier time focusing on what I have to do when I'm actually articulating it rather than trying to hold it all inside of my head. And I don't know if that's mindfulness or what, but that's like my version of it. Mm, 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 mm. Hmm. 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 Diagnosing. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so connected to, I mean, I think for all of us, it's so connected to emotional state. I know for myself and for Evan, for sure, when we're anxious about something, it's about something about a whether it's a real situation or just a feeling we're having, focus and attention becomes more challenging. And I definitely notice in, I mean, Sasha's 10 months old, so her focus is not great, but I'm not really worried about that. Uh, but when Anna is emotionally overwhelmed, her ability to stick with one task definitely becomes compromised. And I think that's so it's so tricky in childhood to always tell the difference between what is an emotional circumstance that's impacting a kid's ability to focus and what is like a cognitive development thing. Mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And he's even like, actually articulated that exact thing to me. say something like, can you make sure, I mean, it's sometimes it's instructions, sometimes it's if I'm giving him feedback about something, if I try to do uh if I make more than one request at a time, I think it gets really overwhelming. And so we have to really parse it out. And I always ask him to come back to me with a request for more of what I had to say. And that helps me feel like my needs are being met so that I can meet his need of not overloading him with instruction. And usually works pretty well. Yeah. Mm. Well, I think that a lot of the studies right now are showing that we really have misunderstood intelligence for a long time. Um, just as it's like multiple choice tests, for example, or testing in general. I think there are a lot of kids who don't test well. I was certainly one of them. Uh, I did not do great on the SATs, but it really hasn't had much of a bearing on my life because I was very privileged and was able to get help in other ways. Uh, and I think we're finding more and more that kids who have a hard time sitting still, kids who process differently and think differently, uh, may appear in childhood to not be as capable as their peers who don't have such a difficult time with those things, but that in life they just go on, if they can get the resources that they need, they go on to do just as well. And I hope that it helps us adjust the way we think about success, because it I think for a long time we've thought about success as being really correlated with compliance. And the more we learn about the human brain, it just seems like we should probably be shifting away from that. Wow. Wow. Hmm. 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 Yeah, well, because that's where it's the following the impulse where that's where we start to see it as a behavioral issue. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that makes sense. You're forgiven. Mm, mm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think one other thing that just occurs to me is when I think about my journey to uh, hearing aids, which I've talked about this a few times on the show before, but I was fitted for them about 3 years ago after a lifetime of pretty profound hearing loss that you wouldn't have necessarily noticed right away. But if you spent a little time with me, you might notice that I ask for things to be repeated a lot. And I still do, even with the hearing aids. And a lot of that has to do with auditory processing. But I know that hearing is so correlated with focus. And so if there's someone in your life who seems, or if you yourself seem to struggle with keeping up with what's happening, looking at hearing as part of the picture, I think, is really important. I've experienced focus related to that on both sides, pre hearing aids and post. Before I had hearing aids, I would regularly tune out in conversations because, and I would feel panicked, but I would feel like I wasn't going to be able to keep up anyway because I couldn't actually hear what was going on. And now I'm taking in so much more sound than I ever did before. And my brain is still, it's gotten a lot better, but it's still figuring out what to do with all that information because I spent 36 years not, not taking in as much as I take in now. So, and I will say to that end, whether or not your hearing is compromised, using the captions on television shows makes such a difference in my ability, especially when there are accents involved. Yeah, there you go. My takeaways are that we all are probably experiencing focus issues if we live in this society in this day and age and are consumers of information. We're probably going to have some focus issues, and to so not to panic if you're having problems, but also to attend to them in ways that you can. And I'm really interested in learning more about mindfulness. I think that um, I think the thing I was talking about where I talk about what I have to do out loud, I feel like what that does for me is it helps connect my wandering mind to earth and to what's going on in front of me and what it is that I need to do. And it makes me wonder if there are more ways that I can start to integrate how I'm feeling, um, what's going on for me in the moment so that I can proceed like a little bit more here on earth. So if that makes any sense. So I'm really inspired by that. Yeah. What about you? What are you? Mm, mm. Here, here. I wish the same thing for you. Here, here. I agree. I We have come to a consensus on that. Are you not? Are you not going to tell us how to? Are you not going to tell us how to subscribe? You can also email us. We are at allthefwordspod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Feel free to diagnose us. We've clearly displayed a lot of different focusing issues. We'd love to hear from you, whatever you think is wrong with us. And also, tell us what's right with us and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to rate and review us.